to The Boring and the Brilliant, the podcast that makes investing simple, fun, and totally hype-free. Whether you're commuting, at the gym, cooking, or learning on the go, these quick episodes break money down so clearly a 10-year-old could follow along. We skip the jargon, we skip the hype, and we definitely skip the get-rich-quick nonsense. And just a reminder, we're not financial advisors, just two guys who've invested for decades and want to help you avoid the mistakes we made. If you're ready for real talk, simple explanations, and a few laughs, hit follow. All right, let's get started. Today's episode is about the most expensive mistake in investing: misunderstanding risk.
Yep, people think risk just means losing money. But the real danger? Taking the wrong kind of risk without even knowing you're doing it.
Exactly. Nobody wakes up and says, let me blow up my savings today.
Right. Beginners take the wrong risk by accident, not because they're reckless, but because the rules of risk are invisible unless someone teaches you.
And in our decades of investing, we've seen this more times than I can count. Smart people, hard-working people losing money simply because nobody explained how to read risk.
Today, we're fixing that. We're going to make risk so clear, so simple, so relatable that you'll never look at investing the same way again.
All right, let's break this down. Let's clear one thing up, because this confuses everyone. Risk and volatility, not the same thing.
Volatility is movement. Up, down, like a roller coaster.
Risk is the chance the roller coaster derails.
Exactly. People bail out of great investments because they mistake movement for danger.
Perfect example. The stock market drops 20%. People freak out.
But if the company is strong, that's volatility, not risk.
And volatility is normal. Like waking up grumpy sometimes. It happens. Doesn't mean the day is ruined.
But risk is when your job depends on that alarm clock working and it doesn't go off.
You know what my mentor hammered into me? He said, Max, if a company's price is jumping around, that's noise. If the business is falling apart, that's risk. He made me do this exercise. Every time a stock dropped, I had to answer one question. Did the business change or did the mood change? And 90% of the time, it was just the mood. Love that. He also told me something that stuck forever. He said, volatility is the fee you pay for long-term growth. Risk is what you get when you don't know what you own. So he made me understand the difference with real-life examples. Volatility example. Apple drops 30% because people are panicking about the economy. But iPhones are still selling. Services are still growing. Cash is still piling up. That's volatility. You invest in a company without profits, heavy debt, and one product. If that product fails, game over. That's real risk. The business model is fragile.
That's such a mentor move, turning pain into homework.
He even taught me real risk outside the market. He said, you know what's risky, Max? Having one income source. Your job fires you, that's 100% loss. Meanwhile, people call the stock market risky when it drops 10%. My mentor flipped my whole mindset.
So true. Volatility scares you. Risk ruins you.
Exactly. And when you understand that difference, investing stops feeling like gambling and starts feeling like strategy. The trick is not avoiding risk, but choosing smart risk.
Yep, and look, I learned this the hard way. I wasn't some finance prodigy. I was a dude watching YouTube videos at 1 a.m. thinking I'd cracked the code.
Dangerous hours.
I took dumb risks early on. Bought stocks because the internet said they were going to the moon. Bought a rental property without checking the plumbing. Guess what? The plumbing was the moon. Craters everywhere.
Oh no.
But here's the thing. Every mistake taught me what smart risk looks like.
Explain that, because beginners really need to hear it.
All right. Dumb risk is guessing. Smart risk is calculating. Dumb risk. I feel like this stock might go up. Smart risk. The company makes money, has customers, has a future. I can explain why I own it. Dumb risk. Cheap house, I'll buy it. Smart risk. Cash flow works, the numbers check out, and I know the condition.
So the difference is knowledge?
Knowledge and preparation. Smart risk is when you understand the downside and you can survive it. Like one of my mentors said after I blew money on a terrible trade, if a single mistake can wipe you out, you're not investing, you're gambling with a nicer vocabulary.
Great line.
Yeah, and that's when it clicked. The goal is not to remove risk because you can't. The goal is to make sure the risk you take won't ruin you.
And that's the kind of risk that actually builds wealth.
Exactly. Small, smart risks stacked over time. That's how self-taught investors like me survive long enough to finally get good.
All right, confession time. George, hit me. A moment you took way too much risk.
2001. I put nearly everything I had into one tech stock. I was convinced I was a genius. Then, boom, crash. I lost nearly half my net worth.
Oh,
Yeah, it humbled me fast. Taught me one thing crystal clear. Diversification is not optional. You can't rely on one bet, one hot tip, one sure thing. Even if you think you're brilliant, the market will humble you.
okay, my turn. 2015. I chased a hot investment tip from a guy who sounded confident, too confident. I bought in, then watched it drop 40% in a month.
Oh man.
Yeah, go ahead, laugh. I deserved that. Taught me not to outsource my thinking. And, most importantly, it reinforced the power of diversification.
Exactly. Here's the thing beginners often miss. Diversification isn't just a buzzword. It's having different types of assets that behave differently. Stocks, bonds, real estate, maybe a little cash. When one engine sputters, the others keep the plane flying.
Yeah, like in 2008, if you had everything in stocks, you'd have panicked. But mix in bonds, some cash, maybe a rental property, and suddenly those losses don't feel catastrophic. You can actually sleep at night.
Diversification also stops you from making emotional decisions. If everything goes down at once, you might sell everything. If some things are holding steady, you can stay calm, think clearly, and let your plan work.
And beginners rarely think in terms of engines. Stocks grow fast, the rocket ship. Bonds protect you, the shock absorber. Real estate pays you, the cash-generating engine. 3 different ways, all working towards the same goal, long-term financial security.
Exactly. Diversification isn't exciting, it's boring. But boring is what keeps you in the game and wealthy over time.
So the takeaway? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Build your engines, keep them running, and the ride won't feel like a crash every time there's turbulence.
And if you survive the turbulence, you'll probably laugh at the moments you thought you were a genius. Let's help audience out, Max. How do you handle fear when investing?
I have certain ways to do that. First, know your time horizon.
What do you mean by that?
If you need the money in 6 months, don't invest it. If you need it in 6 years, different story. Step 2, don't check your portfolio every 20 minutes. That's like weighing yourself every time you drink water.
So true.
Step 3, diversify. Stocks, bonds, maybe real estate. Mix it, spread it. And step 4, understand the business. If you know what you own, fear drops by 80%. Because fear mostly comes from confusion. Imagine this scenario. You buy a stock in a company that makes coffee machines. You don't really know the business, just heard it's hot. A week later, the stock drops 15%. You panic, you're sweating. You wonder if you should sell everything. Now imagine instead, You own a company that makes coffee machines, but you understand the business. You know their sales are growing, they have loyal customers, and their debt is manageable. The stock drops 15%. You shrug because you know the business hasn't changed. The market is just noisy.
Exactly. Fear vanishes when confusion disappears. You're no longer reacting to charts or headlines. You're reacting to reality.
And that's the beginner's secret. Understand what you own, know your plan, diversify, and let time do its thing.
Investing doesn't have to feel like jumping out of a plane without a parachute. It can feel like sitting in a car with a reliable engine, watching the road ahead.
Exactly. And here's the thing. Most people overestimate the danger because they see the numbers move every day.
I always tell people you take more risk crossing the street than buying an index fund.
Absolutely.
I am not kidding. You get in cars with strangers, Uber, you try new food trucks, you date people who may or may not have emotional stability. Everyday life is full of risk. Investing just feels scarier because you see the numbers move.
True. But once you understand it, risk becomes manageable. And that's when you can start thinking clearly about the next step, how to actually use time as your biggest advantage in building wealth. All right, listeners, what's one financial risk you took that actually paid off? Big or small? Share it in the comments.
And if you missed earlier episodes, especially episode 3 about beating the market, go check it out. It connects perfectly with today's topic.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
See you in episode 7.